foolhardy for a party to just sit and say that it controls a particular region. The game of politics is dynamic. It's a living document. Because I'll give you some perspective. ODM is greatly perceived to enjoy unanimous support from the Luo Nation, for example. However, even in Siaya County, we didn't win all the parliamentary seats. So, for example, the MP, David, he's from a totally different party. And Siaya is where is Raila Odinga's county.
Yes.
You understand. Therefore, while there are, you could say, and I know specifically when we speak about this, it's about our former Secretary General, Sifuna. There is no cause for alarm if he decides, for example, that he's going to vie for presidency. If you're thinking about the arithmetic of the strongholds as we know them, because electoral bases can be perceived through the counties or through the tribal lens. In the Bukusu, for example, which now you would say Kalonzo Inukambani comes with about 1.5, Matiangi from Gusii Nation comes with about 900,000. The Bukusu Nation comes with about 554,000. So even if he wanted it alone, then if you think, for example, in the conversation that we are having, and Luo Nation is saying that we want, for example, Governor Gladys Wanga to be fronted for the DP, we know that we can marshal 1.7 to 2 million votes.
You don't need to decide now. I mean, is it a paranoia?
No. That's what I'm saying.
Just an example.
So, because personally, I belong to the faction that would say that we want Governor Wanga to be fronted for deputy presidency. We have not gotten to the point where that is a discussion that's happening in the party. You'll realize that the people from the coast, for example, said that they want Joho. And that's what I think, that's the dynamic nation, the living document aspect of politics, is that with all these, knowing our strengths and knowing our weaknesses, we come to the negotiation table. And I'll remind you of, for example, the 2002 election. Kibaki was not particularly the smartest candidate. He comes out of a tenure of being a member of parliament for 50 years. But when they went, we had Charity Ngilu from the SDP, like a very transformative thinker. If you heard Charity Ngilu's manifesto, you'd be like, this is the person we could. On the other hand, we had Kijana Wamalwa. On the other hand, but then now in the public, we know that we have all these presidential aspirants. Then we go to the closed door. And we ask, okay, fine, we have all these good agendas. What are we bringing to the table? Kijana Wamalwa was sinking in debt. Charity Ngilu said, okay, I could raise about 300 mic from my husband and the friends. And Kibaki said, I have about 30,000, I could raise about $1 billion, and I could bring a few more billions. That's how he ends up becoming the presidential candidate. Not because he outclassed or he ideated his competitors. I think it's... Looking at Sifuna now, for example, I wouldn't be worried about his candidacy. I would say, for example, that he could be a paper tiger because, and I'm not saying this just to demean the person. He is a stellar orator and he's a great politician. But just as a presidential candidate, in 2024 July, Uhuru Park was full of young people who endorsed Okiya Mtata for presidency. It was a big rally. That was big. A few months later, then it was Maraga. Then a few months later, now it's Sifuna, for example. But then there was Babu as well before Sifuna. And if we're just going by a wave which we cannot quantify, I think it's a passing cloud. Heck, I even at some point was fronted
as a presidential
every time people look at me, they tell me, "Oh, you messed us up. You would have been the president of this country." And I say, "Oh yeah, would have."
But